Welcome to Think on These Things. My name is Gabriel Etzel, and I'm part of Liberty University's School of Divinity. This year, for Think on These Things, we are walking through Scripture in our 2024 Bible reading plan. Each day, we have Old Testament and New Testament passages, and if you follow along with us, you'll read the entire Bible in 1 year in 2024. If you'd like to follow along in the Bible reading plan, please look at the comments below this video, and you'll be able to find a link to the reading plan itself. So the reading for this week, again, Old Testament and New Testament, I want to focus a little bit on the book of Joshua. And this is really a transition point in reading through the Old Testament. The first 5 books of the Bible are called the Book of the Law or the Torah or the books of Moses, written by Moses. And so we just finished up reading the book of Deuteronomy, and we come to this next book in the Old Testament, which is the book of Joshua. Joshua was not written by Moses, and you'll see a significant transition here. So God worked through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jacob's 12 sons. We see that at the end of the book of Genesis, the blessings that happened through Jacob to his children. We look in the book of Exodus and the significance of God bringing the people out of Egypt. And remember, though, that was 400 years after they had went down to Egypt. And so a long period of time has been covered really in the first couple books of the Bible. And then we get into Leviticus and Numbers, and then Deuteronomy is kind of this re-giving of the law as Moses is summarizing some stuff. But the book of Joshua, we're going to see that at the beginning of the book of Joshua, you still have a people of God who are not in the promised land that was promised to them way back through Abraham. They're not there yet. And they're this people group kind of wandering around. But then we get to chapter 1 of Joshua, and we start to see what God is going to do through Joshua himself. So we've talked a little bit, or you've seen glimpses of the person of Joshua in the past, but just for way of a little bit of an overview, Joshua would have been born in Egypt, so born a slave. He was Israelite, but they were enslaved at the time. He would have come out of Egypt with the Exodus, and he would have served with Moses. He was kind of the right-hand man to some degree, serving and helping out with Moses. We see earlier in the book of Numbers that the Spirit of God was with Joshua and that God was working through him. And what I want to look at is really the first few verses now in the book of Joshua to really show the significance of God not just saying, hey, I was with Moses, but God saying, hey, Joshua, I'm going to be with you. So notice what it says, Joshua chapter 1, verse 1, after the death of Moses, that was the last chapter of the book of Deuteronomy where Moses died. So after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, into the land that I'm going to give them to the people of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon I will give to you, just as I promised to Moses, from the wilderness in this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Listen to this, just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. And I will not leave you or forsake you. Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to your fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Verse 11, be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Put yourself in Joshua's shoes a little bit, right? You've seen how God worked through his servant Moses. He's done unbelievable things. The miraculous, brought them out of the land of Egypt, right? And provided for them in miraculous ways in the wilderness. But Moses is now dead. And if you're Joshua, you're probably wondering, is God going to continue to have his hand upon this nation? Am I going to be able to lead? And God says to Joshua, be strong and courageous. And why is it? It's because God is with them. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you or forsake you. As you're reading through the Old Testament, hopefully you're picking up on this theme that God's promises will come true. God can be trusted. We are learning about the very character of God as we read through Old Testament scripture. Now, we know what God demands, and so we with the law and other things, but this is a revelation of God about who he is to the readers, to us. And so we can learn about God's very character as we read throughout scripture. And I'm encouraged as I look at these passages to say, God is continuing to prepare his people to do the miraculous through them, and all he calls or all he asks is that we would simply be faithful. He's not telling Joshua to do it in his own strength. He's saying, I will do this through you. You just be faithful. Don't turn to the right. Don't turn to the left. Just be faithful to me. Now, kind of one final thing to think about. Sometimes I look at faithfulness and I think about the promises of God, and I get very, very impatient. Right? If you read through the Old Testament and you say, well, I would be the hero of Scripture, I would be Joshua, or I'd be Moses, or I'd be Abraham. Sometimes I think if we're being honest, we might be the people of Israel who grumble and complain and get very impatient. The promise to Abraham that's going to be fulfilled with Joshua leading the people into the promised land and conquering and dividing it among the people, that's a 600-year gap. That took a lot of generations to get there, and yet God is faithful. God keeps his promises. Part of me says, man, for them, I wish God would have worked in a shorter time period, but I trust in the sovereignty of God, God's very character, to say it's God's timing. And we can ultimately trust in who God is. So I'm encouraged by that. I hope that you are as well, to say God is faithful. We are just called to be obedient to what he's commanded us. So as you go throughout your week, trust in the character of God and be obedient to his calling on your life. I want to thank you for joining us for Think on These Things. If you'd like to follow along with us in our Bible reading plan, the link for that is in the comments below. Or if you have questions about maybe the programs that we have in the School of Divinity or the courses that we offer, you'll be able to find that in the link below as well.